So I've been studying a few artists in the past couple months, and I ran into this artist, Nixeu, who has really amazing digital art. One of the things that I really like about their art is that they're doing some of these fan art in their very unique style, and it's just amazing to look at. I love the way they paint eyes, it has a really unique way. But then when I started studying the paintings, I realized that they use a lot of cool colors in their painting in general, even when it comes to the skin, as you can see in these paintings here. So I was curious to see if I can replicate this and try and understand how to use cool colors like the blues, especially when it comes to painting skin or things that are usually warmer colors. So I decided to pick this painting of theirs and try and replicate it. So I started with a sketch as usual, and then I decided to do it in grayscale first because I felt like jumping straight into these cool colors might be a bit challenging. As you can see, I went in using the round brush and I started slowly rendering in and adding in the different shapes. I try to have the different things in different layers so that I can easily add the colors onto them later. So for example, the skin was one layer, the hair was another layer, and the clothing was a third layer. And as I started rendering, as you can see, just using the same round brushes and just slowly adding in the light and shadow. And when you're doing it in grayscale, it's not as daunting and challenging because you're familiar or I'm familiar with grayscale in general and how to add light and shadow into the scene. And then when it comes to the style, we can really see this influence that they have, that it has a realistic look or semi-realistic look, but it's stylized in a way that in some of the paintings you see those big eyes and you see those colorful eyes and then the small nose and such. But the rendering is realistic and it goes into really detailed texturing to give it that realistic look. So I always try and remember to render things in big shapes first. So always make sure with the round brush to add those big shadow and light shapes first, and then slowly start defining things smaller and smaller. And always think of things in terms of light and shadow shapes. Even when it comes to the hair, you can see that I just use the big round brush first to add the general shape and the general flow of the hair by adding specific light and shadow shapes into it. And then I reduce the size of my brush and started adding more details. So now that we have the paintings in grayscale, I wanted to start adding colors. So to add the color, I would just simply select the layer and then create a clip and mask and add a curve tool on top of it. And then you can play with the red and blue and green channels to add the color into the grayscale painting. So I wanted to now start adding the cool colors. This was a bit of a challenge at first because as you can see, I initially started with a color that is closer to the red. It's still a cooler color, but it's very close to the red. And then what I decided to do is add the blue light into parts of the skin which receives the light from the sky, the blue light from the sky, because in this scene, the scene is a night scene, so a lot of the blue sky will be there and there's no warm light that will hit it. And then as I added that blue light into the parts where the light will be hitting, I wanted to also make sure that I add a little bit of red or warm color into the cheeks. So I decided to make sure that that is there as well. Now, when it comes to the eyes, this was something very interesting. I wasn't sure how to exactly do it. So I initially painted one main color in, and then at the bottom of the eye, I added the blue light color in there. So just using the round brush, adding different values of blue. So a little bit of dark and a little bit of light blue. And then the main color that I had also made sure I add some highlights in the top section of the eye. Also, make sure that I have the shadow caused by the upper eyelid reflected in the eye so that it gives it that 3D look. For the eye, you have to really make sure you know where to use the hard edges. For example, the black part of the eye really has hard edges, and then also the really bright highlight also has hard edges. So using the hard round brush, you can add that. Then again, because the different parts of the painting are on separate layers, I could easily now select the hair and using the same technique of the curve selection tool, add a color into it. Then I did the same thing with the clothing as well. But the other thing that I wanted to do is, because it has two different colors on there, I went in and added another layer on top and used the color mode. So change the layer mode to color and use a clipping mask to just add that golden color into it. And then, of course, at the different stages, I would merge the layers together and just start playing with the curve adjustment tool just to make sure my colors are right. And you can always add another layer on top of your merge layer. If you want to add more shadows, you can turn it to multiply. If you want to add some light into it, you can turn it to overlay or soft light or hard light. And then when you have everything merged, you can always use the liquify tool to make some adjustments as well. So studying this artist was really important for me because it helped me really understand how I can paint the skin, or I can even paint everything using cool colors, and not all my paintings need to use warmer colors. I'm always used to the light or the daylight scene where the colors are bright and warm, but this was a really interesting exercise and practice for me to learn a little bit on how to use the cool colors to give the impression of the skin in the nighttime. And really, when you have these colors together in your environment, in your scene, and you blend them together, you'll be able to give the impression of the skin, and it doesn't really look very foreign by just having these blue colors in the skin. I hope this video was helpful in showing some of the things that I've learned from this artist and showing you how you can implement the cool colors into your paintings on a regular basis and give that unique look to your paintings. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.